Hello, my dear friends, my students. Today we are going to overcome next C hurdle, and it is super important. We are going to talk about structures. Structures are very powerful feature. Actually, it's probably an introduction or a predecessor of classes. So using structures, you can define your own types, your own, let's say, compound types. So based on built-in types, you can create more complex combinations of all kind of variables. And what you see here in lines 5 to 9 is an example of the structure. So let's say I want to create a new type of data and it consists of a string, an integer, and a double. So this new type I created is called student. In a string, I'm going to keep student's name. In an integer, I'm going to keep his date of birth. And finally, in a double, I'm going to keep the student's average mark. So that's how you define structures, and usually you put them in a header file. Structure declaration is not the executable statement. It's just information for compiler. And now let's see how would I use my new student type. So you see in lines 11 and 12 I declared two variables of student type, and the variables inside students are called structure members or structure fields. So my structure student has three members or three fields: name, date of birth, average mark. So after I created two students, I supposed to initiate the members. So I allocate some memory for the name dynamically, line 13. I copy John to that memory, line 14. And I initiate date of birth, average mark in lines 15 and 16. Finally, I have a very simple function just to print all the information about student. You can pass structures to the functions. Probably we can talk a little bit more about it. And also, look, you can assign one structure to another structure. So line 18 is assignment. It is allowed not only for built-in types like integer, double, or character, assignment operator available for structures. And what it does? Well, quite obviously, assignment going to copy all the members from S1 structure to S2 structure. And in order to prove it, in order to prove my student 2 has the same data, I print him, line 19. Of course, I have to deallocate memory. I allocate it dynamically, so I need free for the name of the student. But be careful, because when you assign structures and when your structures have pointer as a members, you may end up having two pointers pointing to the same string in the memory. Yes, I have two students, but the pointers in both student 1 and student 2, they point to the same area of the heap of the dynamic memory, which means I'm not supposed to deallocate the student to name. Why? Because this address is already deallocated. So you cannot free memory if it's already disposed. So if by mistake I'm trying to do free on second student, I made up with the crashing program, because that memory is already freed, it's already given back to the operating system, and you're trying to do this operation again. So be careful, please, when you have in a structure pointers as members. They may point to the same area of the heap. Okay, so I think I can now try it. And yes, I see both students are identical. By the way, today I'm not using command line compiler. I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio. This why it is a strange directive, because if you don't use it in Microsoft Visual Studio, some standard C library functions are flagged with the warnings, and Microsoft created a whole bunch of its own versions of the standard functions, so-called safe versions. But if you don't want it, if you don't want those warnings, those Microsoft specific warnings, you can just use a special command in your program, CRT secure no warnings. Now, what I did actually, it's not the best way to deal with the structures. So yes, it is used in many books, but unfortunately, in real life, we declare structures slightly differently. There is nothing wrong with what I just showed you. However, the problem is, if you follow this pattern, you have to keep using struct keyword. Anywhere you need a student, you need struct. Anywhere you need to pass student, you need a struct. So it's kind of annoying, and you may forget. You may forget about this keyword. So what would be the best solution if you declare structures? The best solution would be type def. So you declare structures using type def declaration, and then the new type goes after structure members. So that's how you can define structure using type def statement. So let me now remove all the struct keywords. I'm trying to figure out why my type def is showing me an error message. Let's double check. I think I have it in I misspelled type def, so that's the problem. So that's a better way to declare a new type, guys. So you put type def. It's a special C statement to declare your own type. Then you define using struct keyword all the members of your structure, but the type is going after. So that's the new type you just create. So in the first approach, my type was at the beginning of the structure members list. Now it's at the end. And the advantage is now I don't need those annoying struct keywords. My student is a new type, absolutely the same as integer or double or character. So now it's much easier to use it. So if you declare your structures using type def, it's much easier to use them, and that's why it's the most practical way to deal with the structures. Okay, let's prove it. Let's prove it. It's working. Nothing happened. I can compile and I see, yes, all or both students, they have the same data. And again, be careful if you have in a structure pointers as a members. So to wrap it up, today we introduced structures in C language. We showed you, let's say, classic way to declare structures. By the way, in classic book, Kernighan and Ritchie book, they also showed you that classic way, but also we showed you a better, more practical way to declare structures, to declare your new types using type def statements. And pay attention, usually structures definitions, they all going into header files, because type def it's not the executable statement, it's just a declaration. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your likes, your subscriptions, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye, guys.